All right, so here at STLI, we have a pretty heavy focus on technology and digital. I think that was probably magnified by COVID.
Yeah.
A lot of us have experience in e-learning and things like that. And so we're always kind of keeping our eye on educational technology in the classroom, but also these digital tools and resources that could be, web-based or and I've seen some very heavy use of technology or web-based resources in the classroom in an attempt to customize instruction or enhance engagement, that mystery word, in a specific domain or subject area. So we're in this wave of tools where domain-specific things are coming out. This is just for business education, or this is geared towards the natural sciences or something. And I suspect there could be negative impacts of technology if it's overused. If everyone has their tool du jour, I suspect there could be some negative sides. So do you have any heuristics or guidelines to help instructors think more carefully on when to use digital tools and resources, and better yet, when not to?
Yeah. Well, I think when we're talking about the integration of technology and instruction, it's another part of the educational process that follows pretty much the same guidelines. So the first question has to be, well, why are you using technology? It needs to solve something, it needs to foster something. And so how is it fostering students' processing of knowledge and experience, since that's going to lead them to learn? So this is where you start the backwards design of what are your expectations, what would you like them to come away from, and how can technology help with that? So if we're looking at table-based simulations in the medical fields or in the veterinary medical fields, it's interesting technology and it's kind of fun, but then so why are you using it? How are you scaffolding students' use of it so they are coming away from it with the kind of knowledge and skills and insight that you would like them to? And so a lot of planning goes in. It's just whipping a little technology on them is something that I think in educational psychology and instructional technology we've been fighting ever since the invention of the pencil. And I have no idea when that was, but now we have these other really cool technologies, and the question is, so why are we using them other than it's the cool technology? And I think a lot of people, we were talking about clickers, a lot of people went to clickers just because. Simulations seem to be pretty hot these days in various kinds of ways, whether they're online, digital, small simulations that are being used in engineering to solve problems, or they're these big table-based type of simulators. And then, of course, we've got the immersive environments where you've got headsets and things along those lines. So that's one of those. When I think of Google Glass, when I think that of some of these technologies, I think of that as that version one that didn't work out quite so well, but I think the idea is sound. And so what is it going to look like in another 5, 10, 15 years when people start sorting these things out? And now you can do a heads-up display that actually just has your phone in it. And so you don't need to spend $5,000 to get a backpack and all these other things to go with it. Those kinds of things are coming down. And so I think we're going to find more people finding appropriate uses within domains, like you said. Most of these are going to be domain specific.
Yeah, we've all kind of preached a couple of things around these ideas of overuse. One is this beware of the tool salad. If you're a student and you have 5 professors and they all use 3 different tools, that's 15 tools that you have to navigate. And the other is what you kind of mentioned, which is this shiny thing syndrome. These companies are very good at branding and selling their product, and so you're attracted to it because it looks cool. And so some of this goes back to what Mark mentioned at the end of the keynote, which is make that decision last if you have a foundation of what you're trying to accomplish. But I think that takes practice.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned, we live in this environment where students aren't taught to learn and faculty aren't taught to teach, typically, and so they may not have the background. We're sitting around this table, and between us, we've got decades of experience dealing with instructional design, instructional technology, ed psych. But you get a professor who comes out who has a PhD in biology. Their experience relative to teaching may be limited, just like mine would be relative to biology. So I don't know anything about the plant that I'm about to kill myself with, and they may not have an understanding yet of how to integrate technology in ways that make sense. And that's why you all have jobs.
That's right. Let's keep it that way.
We piloted a tool recently called GradeScope, where I got a hint of this in terms of scaffolding. So it's been very interesting to see that return users of a particular tool learn to make better use of it and appreciate it more the more they see it. So, At William and Mary, we might be a little bit different demographically than Virginia Tech. Our students tend to be, you'll get the students who's a religion/physics major. So we're a little bit more liberal arts. So choosing a tool that students might only see for one semester can be problematic, I think.
Yeah, I think on the upside, like you were talking about, some of the early adopting faculty really think their way through these and come up with some really cool ways of adopting technology that makes sense. The question then is how do we normalize some of that so that we can then offer it up? Say, hey, we have this tool. It's good for these 3 things. Are you doing a lot of that? So these will help for problem-based learning or whatever the case may be. But faculty and students, I just think sometimes when you give them the freedom to figure things out, sometimes they figure out some really cool things.